Mother-in-law accused me of cheating because my newborn son. Our apartment complex's management asked us to do their job for them, so we did, but not the way they expected. I'm 27. I live in a complex that was bought by a new management company in June 2023. My best friends, Cole and Phoebe, both 29, also live here, just on the other end of the property. The first thing the new company did was move us to a new online resident portal for service requests and rent. I don't know what went wrong, but rolling out the system took over a month, and it was a nightmare, because all communication with management is only through that portal. On August 2nd, I logged in to pay rent. As usual, I checked the utilities breakdown: water, trash, sewer, common area expenses, and internet/cable. Utilities are billed based on actual usage. I've lived in my current unit since September 2022 and, before that, in 2 other apartments in the same complex for a combined 3 years. In short, I know what my utilities should look like here, especially the water bill. To my surprise and confusion, water was $91. It's usually around $30, $40. I get that rates go up, but it usually happens at the start of a year, and never this steeply. I emailed the office, politely asking what on earth was going on. The assistant property manager told me the water utility had raised rates, and the complex had nothing to do with it. Our hands are tied. That felt off, so I called my friends on the other side of the complex to see if they had the same issue. They did. Their water bill was double the usual, $120. They'd also contacted the office and got the same answer. Cole asked if management planned to investigate, since a mid-year spike like that looked suspicious. The office told him he could look into it himself, because it wasn't their job, even though it literally is. That's when Cole flipped the malicious compliance switch. He's meticulous, a data analyst. Asking questions and finding answers is his job, and he's good at it. He contacted the water company several times by phone, email, and chat, and got the same reply every time. We never raise water rates mid-year, and certainly not by that much. Your complex is lying to you. Take it up with them. He compiled everything and drafted a letter to management, down to quoting the water board's meeting minutes about planned rate increases for the coming years. Cole also included other issues we were having: access to the gym and pool, and the constantly broken gates. In my own exchange with the utility, an employee named Lisa said, "Our rates went up this January. We never raised them mid-year." Given all of the above, my concern about the recent jump in our water charges should be pretty clear. We had more questions for management. Twice, I was almost hit by cars inside the complex because drivers were entering through the exit gate. I think it's because there are no deterrents preventing people from doing that. A look around showed there used to be spikes there, but they're gone now, contrary to posted signs claiming otherwise. My spouse went to the office about gym access. I don't know who Phoebe spoke with, but she was told we needed to create an account so the wireless lock could let us in. They also said we'd receive the access email in 1x days, but it's been about 3 weeks. Cole sent the letter, BCC'd me, and we waited and waited. Eventually Cole went back to the office, and one of the staff told him to call our utility billing company, UBS, to clear things up. So he did. UBS confirmed they hadn't had a contract with our complex since mid-July. The plot thickened. Cole contacted the office again and learned we now had a utility billing contract with Conservice, we called them. Conservice told us they only started with our complex on August 1st, 2023, and had no archive data for our accounts. Then we called Ubavest again to try to pull old records. That's when it got very, very murky. Ubavest escalated our inquiry about the complex's contract to their finance manager, and she had interesting information. She told us she'd noticed the spike in our water charges and had reported it to the property manager by name, saying something was wrong and legally needed to be addressed. She never got a response. Shortly after, their contract was terminated. At that point, we both felt like real detectives. We dug into how the water bill is calculated and allocated among residents. The deeper we went, the less it matched what the office had been telling us. The contradictions were shocking. The office staff seemed increasingly irritated by our persistence and told us to take it up with corporate. So we did. Cole contacted corporate and forwarded everything, including the responses he got on his last in-person visit when he'd asked for explanations. "Sorry, I'm new and still figuring it out. We no longer have access to those records. When I brought up financial reconciliations showing I'd overpaid the complex by more than $2, 000. Have you considered that your car theft was a test from God? My car was stolen right from the property. We're working on improving security, and every time I asked about the gates people climb over or the incident where a resident was shot on the property, corporate replied within 24 hours and said they would investigate. Then the regional manager personally called Cole after she reviewed everything, and I mean everything. I wasn't on the call, so I don't know the exact wording, but Cole phoned me right after and relayed it all. The regional manager opened with a sincere apology and told him the entire on-site office staff had been terminated immediately. She apologized that the manager had dared to say Phoebe's car theft was a test from God, calling it absolutely unacceptable. She also assured Cole that a date had already been set to repair the gates and reinstall the exit spikes within a week. All other issues, including every resident's water bills, would be investigated by her personally. She added that she had no idea someone had been shot on the property or that Phoebe's car had been stolen, both of which should have been reported to corporate immediately, and our manager had failed to do so. In a few weeks, the property would be run by a completely new team sent directly from corporate. Now on to the next story. Story 2. A smug car dealer told me I'd be wasting my time going to a competitor. So I did and got 5-star service. This was 8 years ago when I bought my first new car. Not new to me, actually new. I'd spent a lot of time researching the options, models from different brands, and the trims of the one I liked most, so I knew exactly what I wanted when I went to the dealership. In 2014, dealer websites hadn't yet reached today's near bait-and-switch territory. If a dealer site said they had a specific car at a specific price, chances were it was true. There were a few viable options in my area, and one of them was at my local dealer. This wasn't some small lot. It was one of the biggest in Northern Virginia. I'd had decent experiences with their service department, so I decided to give sales a chance. That was my first mistake. I got there on a Wednesday after work. It was early June, about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, so I was dressed comfortably but presentably, polo and khaki shorts. In the showroom, all the salespeople were crammed into a glass conference room, laughing and goofing around. One guy was literally having his tie cut. I later learned that's their first sale ritual. I waited a minute or two. They could not see me. I'm nearly 6 feet 6 inches. No one came out. I went to the reception desk and said, "Hi, I'm interested in model. Your website shows it in stock, and I'd like to see it." Without looking up from her phone, she said, "Okay." I waited another 20 seconds and asked, politely, "Could someone show me the car?" She finally looked up, gave me the once-over, smirked, and said she'd get someone. I decided to give them one more chance, hoping things would improve. Second mistake, she came back with what looked like the youngest, greenest salesman she could find. Apparently, I didn't merit an experienced rep. I explained I wanted the car listed on their site and showed him a printout with the stock number, price, and details. He took quite a while to locate the car, but after a short test drive, I knew it was exactly what I wanted, and we started the purchase process. I had a trade-in service mostly at this dealership. I already had a written offer from CarMax, so I knew roughly what I should get. The salesman offered a little over half of the CarMax number. When I pointed out I could get several thousand more 5 minutes away at CarMax, and showed the written offer, he went to get his sales manager. The manager offered to drive me to CarMax and pick me up afterward, but said they wouldn't match CarMax's price. I was surprised they didn't want a well-maintained, 6-year-old top-trim car with low miles service with them. No less. Still, I gave them more patience than they deserved. Then came the price of the car I wanted. It was several thousand higher than the price on their site. When I showed the printout with a lower number, the newbie looked at the manager for help. He immediately said the online price included all possible incentives and specials, and you don't qualify for all of them. I was getting annoyed. I showed printouts from other nearby dealers listing the same price. I said if they wouldn't sell at their own website price, I'd go to a competitor who would. The manager's answer sealed it. "Go ahead and waste your time at the competitor. We won't say anything when you come back." I said, "Okay, thanks for your time. I'll go to the competitor," and stood up to leave. No one stopped me. The receptionist didn't say a word as I walked past her and headed to the lot. By the time I got to the competitor, it was about 8 p.m. I'd burned too much time at dealer number 1 and hit traffic. The moment I walked in, a salesperson approached. I explained, "I just came from Dealer number 1, I want this exact model. Both of you have it in stock in the trim I want, but they refuse to sell at the website price. If you'll honor your price, I'm ready to sign tonight. He sat me down, verified the car, and confirmed, yes, the website price is accurate. We started the paperwork. When we got to the trade-in, I explained dealer number 1 tried to lowball me hard. He said if I had the CarMax offer in writing, they'd match it. I handed over the papers, and without any fuss, he matched it, and we moved on. I'd already been pre-approved through my credit union, but he asked if I'd give their finance guy a shot at beating the rate. I agreed. He came back 0.5% lower. I was already thrilled with their service. That clinched it. Right as I finished signing, the salesman from dealer number 1 texted to ask if they'd given me the car at that price. I said yes, and that I was finishing up now. He tried to call, then texted that he could knock another $500 off. I replied the paperwork was signed, and he'd lost the deal. Afterward, the incredibly polite salesperson at the new dealer spent another 30 minutes after closing walking me through the car's features and the infotainment system. I'd expected to dig through a 300-page manual myself, so this exceeded every expectation. I drove home that night in my shiny new car, absolutely ecstatic. The next day, just to rub a little salt in, I stopped by dealer number 1 from work. For context, I work in banking, and we still had a strict dress code then, so I showed up in a suit with a briefcase. Staff practically sprinted to help, including the same receptionist, who only recognized me halfway through me asking for yesterday's salesman. She offered me a seat and coffee. I said, no thanks, I won't be long. She awkwardly said she'd get him. A couple in the waiting area looked annoyed they still hadn't been helped, but the moment I walked in, someone magically appeared for me. In under a minute, the salesman and his manager came out. The salesman recognized me, looking defeated, shook my hand, and asked how I was. Before I could answer, the manager started introducing himself as if we hadn't talked for an hour and a half the day before. When I reminded him I'd been there yesterday and that he told me going to the competitor was a waste of time because they wouldn't honor the website price, his demeanor snapped right back to smug and condescending. So, did they sell it to you? He smirked. I said nothing, just turned toward the lot and tapped the fob. My new car's horn chirped a few times. He tossed out, good for you, and walked off, leaving the poor salesman alone. I shook the kid's hand, thanked him for his time, and headed out. As I passed the receptionist, she chirped, do you need any more help? I said politely, no. The other dealer gave me everything I needed, and I'm completely satisfied. Cherry on top. As I walked past that waiting couple, they exchanged a look like, maybe we should go to the dealer he mentioned. Story 3. Big box home improvement bosses demand chaos. And get it, today I let management do my job, and they botched it. I was a senior cashier at a high-volume Home Depot. A couple months ago, they redid the front end. Now the main checkout area is entirely self-checkout, but we're expected to help customers as much as possible. If someone has 6 or more items, pricey purchases, or anything you can hide other things in, we're required to check it. And of course, push store credit cards. It started because cashiers weren't pushing credit enough and we missed goals. So last week, midweek, my supervisor told us she wanted everyone physically on a register, including seniors. We weren't even supposed to check schedules to send people on breaks or home, even though OT is forbidden. If it didn't involve handling cash, we weren't allowed to leave the register. You can imagine how much that frustrates people. It's literally a self-checkout zone. Customers were getting increasingly annoyed with us, helping constantly, more than when they first shifted to self-checkout, and people complained there weren't normal lanes in the main area. There are only 2 or 3 traditional lanes open at opposite ends of the store. That's it. I and the other senior cashiers weren't going to blindly follow the order to stand at a register 100% of the time, because at minimum, we need to know when to send people on breaks and when to cut them, even if it means getting in trouble later. And today was Black Friday. My supervisor, the store manager, and a few other managers hovered most of the day. When my supervisor again insisted seniors stay on registers, I asked, how are we supposed to send people on break or direct customers to open self-checkouts? Most folks won't go to an empty SCO unless you point it out. She said, figure it out. If you need to spin your head 360 degrees to ring and watch the queue at the same time, then do it. Fine. I let them run the show. They sat me on a register. I complied, only getting up when asked to cover someone going home or for a bathroom break. My lunch was 2 hours late. I didn't say anything until an hour and a half past my scheduled time, because breaks are almost never on time for me, but lunch is mandatory due to the no-tea rules. Mine wasn't the only delay. As I finally went to lunch, one cashier returned from the bathroom, and we both saw his 15-minute break was almost an hour late. I apologized and explained I wasn't allowed to check the schedule, otherwise I'd have sent him. I told him to go, but suggested he confirm with the supervisor since it meant 2 cashiers would be gone at once. When I got back, I learned we'd simply forgotten about one of our full-time cashiers on one of the few traditional lanes. She was effectively accruing overtime. That would never have happened if I'd been where I should be. She leaves at the same time every day, but my lunch had been delayed 2 hours. Later, I got sent to garden to cover a lunch, also 30+ minutes late. When I came back inside, another cashier called. His 15-minute had been delayed almost 45 minutes. And that's just part of it. I wasn't allowed to perform my duties and, because of that, my cashier's breaks were missed. Apparently not important. Oh, and we signed up exactly as many credit cards as at the start of last week, before they forced us to sit on registers non-stop. It's not about standing at a register. It's about asking. I don't like it, but I still do it because it's my job. After seeing how me not doing my job to comply with senseless rules hurt my team, and after getting another job offer, I turned in my 2 weeks. I'm happy to be leaving the hellhole. I just worry about my cashiers, who will probably keep suffering under these new rules, especially if someone up top actually enforces them 100%. Sorry for the super late update, life got busy. A few clarifications. I was a senior cashier, technically management, lower tier. What my bosses did on Black Friday was my job. They should have handled it fine. They just didn't care. The first 2 weeks after I gave notice weren't dramatic. I only stayed an extra week for my own convenience. The store manager didn't say a single word to me the rest of my time there. Not even hello, which he usually at least did. I thought that would be the end of the negativity, but about a week and a half later my supervisor pitched another idea that made no sense for our workflow. She wanted us to log into self-checkout stations with our own credentials and run them like manned lanes. Huge problem. If you do that, they stop accepting cash. The system locks out cash entirely. We already learned this when one cashier's credentials glitched one day. I told her it wouldn't work and explained why. Thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. My last week, 2 other seniors told me our supervisor had been twisting practically everything I did. Ironic, since she knew I was likely leaving. I lived far from the store, and the job was physically exhausting. Yes, I was burned out, but when I caught myself slipping, I corrected it. I hate half doing a job. I'd also been completely honest with her. What got me was her style. I've held her role before and, frankly, she's just lazy. The only thing I could praise was her customer service. But right before I left, she and another supervisor in her clique acted wildly unprofessional. I won't waste energy on the details, but an incident happened. I made a small mistake, personally apologized to the second supervisor, and explained. She refused to speak to me, very mature. Everyone who heard about it decided it was yet more proof neither she nor my supervisor should be in charge of anything. It was a lot, but honestly I didn't care much. I had 1 shift left. It's been a few weeks. The holidays came and went. I'm fine. Overall, I feel calmer, less angry. I'm a pretty laid-back person by nature. I hope you're doing well too, and please be kind to service workers. Comments. Unfortunately, they'll replace you by dangling a tiny raise to the card guy in exchange for his soul. It'll probably just be another random cashier they undertrain or pressure into it, or someone off the street. As we've already seen, I was their only successful outside hire. Before this, I was a supervisor in another crappy corporation and, until recently, I didn't realize you could just do your job badly. I quit to prove to leadership they were wrong and their methods hurt people. I won't be the only one they lose, but I'll be the biggest loss, because they treated me as the supervisor whenever my actual supervisor was out. That's all for today. Thanks for listening to these stories. Check out our previous videos. You'll see them right here. And be sure to subscribe to our channel if you somehow haven't already. Good luck.